Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be together this morning on a program like this, and a theme, a subject, which I believe is extremely important and challenging. Our time is limited, and therefore we do not have the luxury of lingering over insights. We'll have to rush, and therefore I need your cooperation. Let me begin with an episode. When Prophet Muhammad was not a prophet, but a man of 40, illiterate, he used to go to a cave in Mount Hira, about 3 miles to the north of Mecca. And he used to go and meditate there. And one day, in the course of his meditation, the story goes that Prophet Archangel Gabriel greeted Muhammad. And you know what Archangel Gabriel said to Muhammad? He said, Ikra. Ikra means to recite. We can say read. The Archangel did not say pray. The Archangel did not say go and attend some worship. Did not say go and give alms. The Archangel said what? Read. I quote this episode because, to me, this episode challenges 2 fundamental stereotypes in the domain of learning. And it's important that we recognize them and reject them, which is our starting point. The first stereotype is that we believe that learning takes place only in certain places. This was mentioned as this program was introduced. We think, for example, that learning takes place in schools, colleges, universities. That's it. But Prophet Muhammad's learning took place in a cave, of all places. And this is important. Let me give you an experience of mine. I go to the gymnasium every morning because I want to be a lifelong learner. And you may wonder what's the connection between the two, but I will not dwell on that at the moment. And one day when I was working on the treadmill, I got a little carried away and I did 20 kilometers, which at my age can be pretty suicidal. But what happened was that as I finished my stint, I began to feel excessively thirsty, unbelievably, unbearably thirsty. And I didn't have a bottle of water with me at that time. So I somehow reached home and I swilled down a lot of water. But now comes the most important part. That experience made me wonder what thirst is. So I began to read about thirst. And I came across an interesting insight that thirst is the disparity between the volume of circulation of blood and the circulating volume of blood. If there is a disparity between the two, your volume of circulation is 5 liters, and if it comes down, shall we say, to 4.5 liters, you feel very thirsty. Now, it is not only that I learned this, but I also went on to learn that this actually is the human predicament. When you experience any craze, when you thirst for something, what exactly is your predicament? There is an inner imbalance. This is why all the illumined souls of this country, our great seers and prophets in the years gone by, asked us to overcome craving, anicca. Now, how do you overcome craving? Only by becoming complete in yourself. If you are incomplete within yourself, all the time you will be thirsting and craving for all kinds of things, including liquor, drugs, this item, that item, all the useless things in the world. You think that they will quench your thirst, they will only make you die of more thirst. All this from a treadmill. The second stereotype that I learned from the experience of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is from whom may you learn? Now we believe that we have to have teachers, very distinguished professors. Now I remember doing a series of programs for a television in Kerala. I did about 350 units for them. And the program was very simple. I would just walk around, a crew would accompany me, and I will stop wherever I wanted and meditate on, reflect on, speak on whatever came to my mind. And one day as we were roaming around, I came across the web of a spider. And I was watching the spider. It was sitting right in the center. A spider's web is an architectural engineering marvel. I challenge any engineer in the world to produce it. But that's another matter. Now, having made this wonderful, intricate thing, this little thing sits right in the center, absolutely still. And fortunately for me, when I was watching the spider, a mosquito came along. You know what happened? In a flash, the spider snapped up. Now, this picture remained in my mind, and I began to reflect, I began to meditate. I said, what does this mean? There is something about it. Suddenly I began to think, well, isn't this what happens in some of our offices? People like spiders wait for somebody to come to extort money. It's called corruption. This is what it is. When you practice corruption, you are a spider and the other person is your mosquito. How can you as a human being practice corruption? This you learn from nature. So, ladies and gentlemen, my point is that you can learn any time of the day, in any place of the world, at any time, provided you have an orientation to learn. I would like to take you to nature for a while. Nature has been my university. Have you seen a lake? All of you have seen a lake, right? Now, have you ever wondered why it is that the water of the lake remains clean and pure, provided we let the lake to be clean? We have developed the art of polluting every lake, every river. That's another story. How does the lake remain clean and pure for centuries? I tell you how it happens. Unseen by us, at the bottom of the lake, there are water springs. And fresh water continuously gurgles and replenishes the water in the lake. This lake is in a state of continuous renewal. If that renewal does not take place, or if it stops, that lake will die. It will no longer be a lake. This is exactly what lifelong learning is. If you don't learn lifelong, you will not have life. You may exist, you may survive like an intellectual vegetable, but you will not have life. There is no option really. How can you not learn lifelong? Now let me give you another picture, another image from nature. I think only through images. That's my discipline. Now look at the tree standing beside the lake. This tree once was a sapling. It grew and grew and grew and grew till one day it began to flower. And soon enough, you began to see fruits. that tree is growing continuously. There are two types of growth in nature. One is growing for oneself. This sapling has to grow, and for a long time it doesn't produce any flower or fruit. It's, shall we say, growing for itself. But a time comes, a magical time comes, when growing for oneself gives way to growing for others. And that's called fruit. No tree in nature eats its own fruit. And it goes on and on and on till the last day of the tree. It will grow and it will give. The proof that you are growing is that you are giving. That too I have learned from nature. Now let me bring you out of nature into culture. Culture is what we have created, right? You've seen a gramophone record? Nowadays a gramophone record is a rarity. I grew up with gramophone records and I still retain a small collection of gramophone records for old time's sake. You know, a gramophone record is a finished product. It will produce only that particular song today, tomorrow, forever. Nothing new will come out of it. You play it 1,000 times, it is the same thing. My dear friends, there are people like that. Gramophone people. The same thing. You know, I've had occasions to listen to the speeches by some very important people in this country. Now, I don't mean in disrespect to anyone. I respect everyone, but the truth must be told. The first time you listen to them, you are mightily impressed. The second time you listen to them, you say to yourself, well, I have heard it somewhere. It's the same thing. It's a gramophone record. It's a playback of the same thing. It's a very pathetic experience. You know, if you are a lifelong learner, you don't have to repeat the same thing ever again. You know, life is so great. Possibilities are so unlimited. This whole universe of information, insight, and above all wisdom, why do you have to repeat an idea even twice? If you're a lifelong learner, you may read the same book, but it will not be the same book. You will discover new things, deeper things, higher things. And that's the excitement of being a lifelong learner. You know, every person worth talking about, every person who has inspired another human being, every person who has made a contribution to our species has been a passionate, disciplined, systematic, lifelong learner. Let me take the instance of our Rashtrapita, the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. He wrote his autobiography, didn't he? What did he call his biography? The story of my experiments with truth. His entire life, he says, is an experiment. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that great? Is it any wonder that he inspired millions and millions of people on the subcontinent, in South Africa, and subsequently all over the world? You know, people talk about the character and soul strength of Mahatma Gandhi. And this is the quotation, character and soul strength. People don't realize that character and soul strength come from what? From lifelong learning. Mahatma Gandhi was such a fantastic student. You know, when he started his school in the Phoenix settlement in South Africa, he said, you know, every student must learn as many languages as possible, at least 3 languages. And therefore he started teaching. He insisted that all the children in the settlement should be taught languages. Do you know which language Gandhi taught? He taught 2 languages. Does anyone know? He taught Tamil and Urdu. Can you imagine? None of these was his language. In order to teach the children in the Phoenix settlement, Gandhi learned Tamil and Urdu. He was such a fantastic learner. You know, Jesus of Nazareth said, and I'm going to close on that because I know the time is running out. Jesus of Nazareth said, seek. The quintessence of spirituality, my friends, is seeking. And learning is only an aspect of it. Actually, you may learn without seeking. And that's what happens in our schools and colleges. It's a tragedy. I don't have time to talk about it. Learning becomes beautiful when it is done in a seeking spirit. Your personality becomes transformed when you seek, when you become a seeker. The alternative to being a seeker is becoming a sleeper. And that unfortunately happens to a large number of people. My dear friends, I want to say this with all the force and passion I can muster. Life is a celebration. Life is a festival. Life is a banquet. It needs to be celebrated. But how do you celebrate? Celebration means fullness. And fullness can be achieved only through growth. And the practical strategy for growth is learning. But then it has to be learning of that kind. Many of us think that we learn with half our brain. But I tell you today, and my young friends sitting there, please remember this. We must learn with the whole of our being. Your body participates in learning. Your every cell must participate in learning. And that's the reason why I'm particular about my physical fitness. Because if my body is cracking up, how will I learn? You must take care of your health. Unfortunately, in this media age, young people, children are becoming couch potatoes. You're losing your physical fitness, and therefore you will not be, or your chance, your prospect of being a lifelong learner is at risk. You know, I was introduced as the principal of St. Stephen's College. There's something very wonderful about my college, and we have always believed that healthy physical culture is the very foundation of sound learning. You must participate in healthy outdoor activities. At the same time, I also want to emphasize today, though it is not very fashionable to do so, if learning is something in which the entire person, the whole being is to participate for it to become lifelong, please understand that you are not only a body, you are not only a mind, you are also a soul. Your spirit must participate in learning. And there is no end to it. Friends, I feel privileged to have been asked to speak on the subject. It is something very dear to me. Therefore, I can go on and on and on, but I know that the time is up. I want to thank you for your patient listening and have a wonderful day.